Hey folks, this is Redleg. I'm going to talk a little bit about my forthcoming mod, Calradia 1050 AD. This is version 1. I'm going to finish loading textures here. Let me tell you a little bit about the mod while we're waiting for this thing to load. So the basic gameplay elements include Diplomacy 4.2, pre-battle orders and deployment 0.92 with some source from 0.96 to fix a few issues. I also have Freelancer 1.51 with some of the fixes used in Florence to improve the gameplay of Freelancer. I also have a number of mini mods. I have the Outpost Kit, Bridge Battles. I have a banking system, money lenders and landlords, as many of you might be familiar with that. I have the tavern animations. I also have a few graphic enhancements, which I'll talk about in just a moment. Alright, let's go ahead and load a game here. I got a bunch of different characters started. Let's load old Hard Helm. Alright. Okay, let's take a look at the camp menu to give you an idea about some of the options here. So, auto looting is part of the diplomacy setup. As you can see, Diplomacy 4.2. I was working on a version with Diplomacy 4.3, but I was having some incompatibilities with the banking mod that I'm using that I don't have in 4.2, so I decided just to stick with 4.2. The PBOD, pre-battle orders and deployment preferences, managing outposts, and so forth. All right, if you go into reports, you'll see I have the dynamic troop trees, so you can see some of the changes I've made here. Okay, so I have fewer cavalry lines in the Swadian unit, and I also added a tier 6 infantry who's pretty tough. There's some of his equipment. It's got some good stuff. Alright. You see I have crossbow lines, and I've added also some skirmisher lines. So we have some pretty darn good spear throwers here among the Swadians. The same thing for the Vagars. So I have a top tier cavalry, top tier infantry, tier 6. I also have the skirmishers and the famed Vagar archers still. Okay. Now the Kurgats, they're probably the biggest change. Instead of having being primarily mounted units, they just have 2 mounted units here. They have a tier 6 cavalry and a tier 5 mounted peltist who will throw Jareds. And you can also see there are other peltists added. So each of these lines has skirmishers that come off the archer line. Okay. I'm also using a number of OSP arms and armor packs. You probably can't tell from this video, but I've tried to use appropriate arms and armor to make each faction distinctive so they don't look alike, they don't use the same arms. Now with the Nords, they also have a skirmisher line, as you can see right here, that promotes ultimately to a Nord mounted raider. Okay, now they still have, obviously a tier 6 infantry, the Huskarl, who's still the toughest guy in the game, and instead of being a level 27 as he was a native, now he's a level 28, so he's pretty bad dude. Alright, let's take a look at the Rhodoks. So you can see the Rhodoks here, same kind of thing as with the Nords. They have skirmisher line added, although not quite as long as the Nords, and ending with a Rhodok mounted skirmisher. So each of these factions has the same number of troops now. They all have a mounted unit, albeit the Nords and Rhodoks, the mounted skirmisher, is not going to be as powerful as the cavalry that the Swadians and Vagars and Saranids have. And they all have a top tier or tier 6 infantry added, except for the Nords who already had one. Okay, so some pretty good changes. And then you can see the Saranid changes as well. Okay, so those are the troop trees. Pretty exciting. There's also the financial report. So this is from the banking system called landowners and money lenders. With Diplomacy 4.3, when I tested this out, and other mods had the same problem, you would purchase land in one bank and end up having money in several banks. That was a glitch. Now, worked in the player's benefit. And I found the same thing when I tried it with Diplomacy 4.3. I'm using Diplomacy 4.2, and I haven't found that problem yet through many games. So it's working very well. All right, let's get out of here. I wanted to talk a little bit about Outpost. So this is the Outpost kit that I manually integrated. It works fairly well. There are a few bugs that are fairly well known to other people who have played this and other types of mods. So it's a nice thing to have, but it doesn't work perfectly. None of the bugs I've seen are game breaking or causing it to crash to desktop. Um, so you know, you can use it, you can enjoy using it. I like to use it to store troops and so forth. Alright, so that's about it for right now. I will stop this video and check back with you some time later when I've made a little bit more progress.